Hello, hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the Asylum Answers Show. I'm Brian Manning, and I want to answer your questions about asylum in the United States. I'm a former asylum officer turned asylum lawyer, and at my law firm, we help immigrants all over the country. Doesn't matter where you live, all over the country. We help immigrants to secure their future in America through asylum. And today I want to answer your questions. Let me know in the chat, in the comments, what questions you have about winning asylum in the United States. All right. But before you drop those questions for me, say hello. Sound off, chime in, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to hear where our supporters, where our fans, where our community, our friends are at throughout the country. Say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. Love to see where you guys are at. All right. Nice. And just by the way, before we get started, if you want to talk with us, if you know that you're ready to see about possibly getting help with your asylum case, schedule an asylum strategy session. Do it right away with one of our asylum professionals at winasylum.com. It's WINASYLUM.com. That's where you can schedule a consultation. You can do that right now. Don't wait. WINASYLUM.com. All right. Hello. Good afternoon. Good to see you. We've got Nicolita. Hello on TikTok. William from LA. Nice. Thank you for that, William. Much appreciated. Who else we got? Say hello in the chat. Let me know where you're watching from. We've got Saida. Says hi, sir, on YouTube. Where are you watching from, Saida? Say hello. Let me know where you're at. All right. Nice. Look, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from, and then you can start leaving your questions, okay? I want to know, what do you want to know about winning asylum in the United States, all right? Before I get to your questions, though, I want to say a few words about this topic. And the issue is, can you still actually apply for asylum if you've been here for more than 1 year? And I'm going to tell you about that in 1 second. But this answer or this question from Shafiqul Islam says, I want to make my asylum case through you. How to contact? Well, the first step is an asylum strategy session. It's what we call our consultations. We don't call it just a consultation because it's a little bit more in-depth than what you typically get with the consultation with most immigration law firms. We're going to go deep. This is not a 10, 20-minute consultation. This is a 50-minute, nearly 1 hour dialogue and engagement with you where we're going to go deep. One of our asylum professionals is going to really get to know you and understand you and your priorities, your goals, and your case, and see whether we think we're in a position to help you. And if so, we're going to explain in detail exactly how we'll do that. So Shafiqul, that's how it starts, is through an asylum strategy session with one of our asylum professionals. And the way to schedule that is go to winasylum.com. So just open up a new tab on your phone or on your browser and type WINASYLUM.com, hit enter, and that will take you to a web page that looks like this. You're not seeing this TikTok. Everyone else, you're seeing on my screen what it looks like when you go on your mobile phone to winasylum.com and what it looks like as you click through to schedule your appointment with us. Super easy. You can do it in under 2 minutes, quick and easy. Do that now, winasylum.com. All right, back to this issue of the 1 year filing deadline, right? There's a rule that says you need to apply for asylum during your first year in the United States. If you don't do that, you won't get asylum. You'll be barred by the so-called 1 year filing deadline unless you qualify for one of the two categories of exceptions. The two categories of exceptions are called changed circumstances and extraordinary circumstances. And under those two categories, there's a lot of different things that can qualify you for one of those categories, meaning that it's okay. Even if you've been here for more than a year, you can still win asylum. And I just want to point out a couple or two or three common scenarios that happen all the time where people file late after 1 year being in the United States, but they qualify for one of these exceptions because it actually does happen a lot. And so, for example, maintenance of status. This means that if you come to the United States like on a visa and you maintain legal immigration status during your first year, and then you keep maintaining immigration status, you can apply for asylum at any time after entering if you've maintained legal status the whole time. So this happens commonly. It's seen with like students. They'll come here on a J1 or an F1 and they'll be in legal status for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. You can still apply. Even if you've been here 4 years, if you've been in status that whole time, you can apply in year 4 and you'll qualify for an exception. Maintenance of status is considered one of the extraordinary circumstances that excuses a late filing, okay? Now, another really common thing is changed circumstances. This is where something changes such that, well, now you really need asylum. You really have a legitimate fear, more so than ever. It's okay if something bad happened in the past or maybe you had significant problems. If it's even worse now, and you're at even greater risk now than was previously the case, then you can qualify because of this change in circumstances. And it can really be a change in anything. It can be a change in what's going on in your country. Like, for example, a different political party came into power last month and they are doing bad things to the opposition, which is you. You're a member of that opposition that they don't like and they're persecuting them. And, maybe in the past you didn't have a good reason to seek asylum because it was safe. But now, because of this change circumstance, you're at real risk. Well, that could be a change circumstance that would excuse a late filing, even if you've been here for a long time, even if you've been here 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. If something changes such that now you're at risk in a way that's more profound and significant than you were previously, well, that's something that would allow you to qualify for a change circumstances exception to the 1-year filing deadline. Now, look. This stuff is tricky. The law around these exceptions to the 1-year filing deadline is complicated. It's hard to prove that you meet one of these the requirements for one of these exceptions. You definitely should talk with an asylum lawyer. If you've been here more than a year and you're thinking about applying for asylum, I strongly recommend that you talk to an asylum lawyer first to figure out, how feasible it is for you to overcome this barrier, or in other words, to establish that you qualify for one of the exceptions, okay? Because it's tricky stuff. It's complicated. You need to know going in, whether you even have a chance realistically of prevailing, of having success in overcoming one of these, overcoming the filing deadline thanks to an exception. Okay. So look, it does happen though. All the time we have clients that we help convince the asylum officer, yes, they qualify for an exception, so they should file late. So look, if you are in the United States and you fear being harmed in your country and you haven't yet applied for asylum, I think you should talk with an asylum lawyer. Even if you've already been here for more than a year, you might qualify for an exception, okay? So if you fear being harmed in your country and you haven't yet applied for asylum, please talk with an asylum lawyer about possibly applying, okay? All right, that's what I wanted to say about that. Let's go to the comments, the questions, the chat. Say hello. Let me know where you're watching from if you haven't already done that. And let me know what questions you have about winning asylum in America. Okay. Abimaz says from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Nice. Thanks for joining us from abroad. Shafiqul said, I want to make an asylum case through you. How to contact? I answered that. Go to winasylum.com, WINASYOUM.com. And that's where you can quickly, easily schedule a consultation online. If you really prefer to call, that's fine. You can call us. 713-909-0401. Again, 713-909-0401. All right. Melvis says, after filing asylum application, is the receipt notice sent only to applicants whose cases are in the system, or is it for every applicant? What do you mean every applicant? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Every person who submits the application as a principal applicant gets a receipt notice. Are you asking whether it's also sent to the dependents in the case? Like, for example, if you're married and you put your spouse on there, does your spouse also get a letter that says, hey, your application's been received and accepted? The answer to that is no. Only the principal applicant. The answer to your question is this. Only the principal applicant gets a receipt notice, and all principal applicants get a receipt notice. There you go. All right, let's see what questions we got. Saida says, are me and my family, are we safe in the situation we apply for asylum and I'm from Maryland? What do you mean? Are you safe from are you asking whether you're safe from being potentially arrested and deported by ICE? I assume that's what you have in mind when you say, are we safe? So I'm going to address it like this. The question is this. Will having an asylum application pending protect you from being arrested and even potentially deported by ICE? Look, there's no guarantee. I cannot guarantee you that, okay, if you file for asylum, you're safe, you're free, you don't have to ever worry about being detained or deported. But I can tell you that I do feel strongly, I believe that having an asylum application pending is the best way to protect yourself from potential arrest and deportation, and especially to protect against quick deportation, against rapid deportation under what's called expedited removal, which Trump's administration has greatly expanded their definition, their implementation of this program. So if you've got a case pending with USCIS and you don't have a criminal record, I think you're at low risk. I think that you don't really have to worry like on a day-to-day basis of, is ICE going to come looking for me? Okay. So if you haven't yet applied for asylum and you fear being harmed in your country, you should talk with an asylum lawyer about whether it makes sense to apply for asylum now. Okay. All right. What questions do we have about asylum in America? Bureau St. Clair says, can someone apply for asylum 2 months after entering the U.S.? Of course. What do you mean? Like, is that too soon, Bureau? Is that St. Clair? Is that what you're asking? Is it too quick? Let me address the question like this. The question is this. Can you apply for asylum, and should you apply for asylum right after you get to the United States, or should you wait for a certain amount of months, 4 months, 6 months, 10 months, 11? You can apply right away. You can apply the day that you get here. When should you apply strategically? Look, I think the sooner the better. A couple reasons. First, I think it does look better in the officer's eyes that someone applies quickly instead of waiting for 10 or 11 months. If you wait for 10 or 11 months, I think an officer tends to think, they probably just heard you have to file in your first year and this is their last ditch effort to stay here. They just found out about asylum and they're not really serious about it. They're just trying to stall. I think if you apply quickly after you get here within a month or two of arriving, that it looks like you're a serious person that fled your country with the intention of seeking safety and refuge here, and you had a plan to apply for asylum because you really need it. The other big reason, the sooner the better you apply, work permit. You're eligible to apply for your work permit 150 days after applying for asylum. So the sooner you apply for asylum, the sooner you can get your work permit. Okay? So the sooner the better. Mohammed says, what's the bottom line if I travel with a refugee travel document and at the customs border they don't let me in? What's next at the airport? If they don't let you in, you'll be detained. And if you tell them, I fear being harmed in my country and I want to, I guess if you already have asylum, what would you say? I fear being harmed in my country and I'm an asylee and I want protection here in the United States. Tell them that. And then they'd have to put you through a process to try to strip away your asylee status before they could actually deport you. You might remain detained during that process in immigration court. Probably not, but it's possible, okay? So the bottom line is if you fear being harmed in your country still, which I assume you do, but if you do, then you would tell them that and say, I'm an asylee. I still fear being harmed in my country. I want to keep my protection here in the United States, and I want to retain my asylee status. And they would have to, do a process to try to take it away in which you could have a lawyer involved to try to help you to avoid that, okay? All right. My upcoming individual hearing, Gold Rush says, my upcoming individual hearing is in April. I updated my declaration form. Do I have to update the I-589 too? Look, if you have a lawyer, your lawyer should help you to update your I-589. I think yes. If you don't have a lawyer, should you go worry about doing it yourself? I mean, honestly, I probably wouldn't mess with it. Honestly, I think most judges are pretty sort of sympathetic and flexible when someone doesn't have a lawyer. They don't expect you to necessarily have updated it. If it's substantive, like if it's like you need to you need to change your application substantively, not just like, oh, I have this different address now or different employment history. If it's substantive, I think you should get a lawyer to help you do that. Yeah. I mean, look, I think you should get a lawyer no matter what. If you want to give yourself the best possible chance of securing your future in America through asylum. So look, Go Rush, it's February. Depends on what day it is in April. If it's later in April, we might still be able to help you. If you call us now, if you go to winasylum.com right now and schedule a consultation with us, we might be able to we have time to still help you. We should talk. Melody Maps, is there an exception if you were underage and in high school? Are you talking about to the 1 year filing deadline? Good. The question is this. When it comes to the 1 year filing deadline for filing an asylum application, is there any kind of exception for people who are underage, for like minors? Yes, there is. So look, under there's two categories of exceptions for the 1 year filing deadline: changed circumstances and extraordinary circumstances. And under this extraordinary circumstances category, there's something that says that you have what's called a legal disability if you're like a child. If you're under age 18, then the rule doesn't really apply to you. Like you qualify for an exception to the 1 year filing deadline due to this extraordinary circumstances exception. However, you got to file within a reasonable time of turning 18. What's a reasonable time? 2 months, definitely reasonable. 3, probably. Beyond 3, it starts to get dicey. So if you wait till you're like 20 years old, probably not going to work because you needed to have filed within a reasonable time of the end of that extraordinary circumstance, which is considered to be when you turned 18. But you should talk with an asylum lawyer to explore this deeper. Okay. Why do some states have higher success rates than others, says Luckveer Siringen. Good question. The question is this. Why are approval rates so much higher for asylum in some states than others? Look, California, great place to be an asylum seeker. The San Francisco Asylum Office in the north usually has the highest approval rate in the country. Los Angeles in the south also has a higher approval rate. But then you go someplace like Florida, and both the asylum offices in Miami and Tampa have very low approval rates. Why is it so different? Well, mainly I think it's the people there. I think it's that the officers, the asylum officers, tend to just be the ones that are living in California tend to be more liberal and open-minded and progressive and pro-immigrant than in the southern part of the country. But that doesn't explain everything, because New York Asylum Office, you would think they would be liberal and progressive, but it actually has a very low approval rate. I think that, though, is part of it. The other part is culture in the office that's pushed down from the top, from the director. I think some directors of asylum offices push very hard for denials. And I think that's the culture of the New York Asylum Office. So look, there's lots of reasons. Also, the law is a little bit more favorable to asylum seekers in some places, like California, than others. But yeah, it is definitely very different. How long does it take for your team to receive the FOIA request, and do you share that with the applicant, says Ali Reza? Yeah, excuse me. It takes us like, when we do the Freedom of Information Act request, it takes like usually 4 to 6 weeks to get an answer, usually from US to get the response, to get the FOIA. And yeah, we share that. Yeah, we upload that to our the shared clients folder. And so you can have a look at that if you're our client. We got Mareg from Maryland, says hello, sounding off. Nice, good to see you. Ooh, good question. Peaceful Man says, does the 1 year asylum filing deadline apply after your case was dismissed in immigration court and you file with USCIS? This is a really interesting question. The question is this. So does the 1 year filing deadline apply to you such that your case could be denied? Because if you get dismissed from immigration court, your case is in immigration court, you file for asylum, but your case gets dismissed from immigration court, and then you go back to file with USCIS, because that's the only way to keep seeking asylum after your case is dismissed from immigration court, right? Well, which deadline is USCIS going to use? Are they going to use the date that you originally applied for asylum, perhaps a long time ago with the immigration court, to assess the 1 year filing deadline? Or are they going to use this new application date when you're more recently just now filing with USCIS? The good news is they have clarified that they're going to use that original filing date, okay? So that's good. So you'll be okay for purposes of the 1 year filing deadline. And for purposes of your EAD, you can apply right away to renew an EAD. You don't have to wait 150 days after applying again with USCIS. That's good news, right? But I recommend you file quickly with USCIS after dismissal from immigration court, or there could be issues around the 1 year filing deadline if you wait too long to apply after dismissal from immigration court. Okay. Olajide says, can someone file for asylum on a changed circumstance of threats relating to family, estate, or inheritance back in my country? Good question. The question is this. Could threats that you've received only recently related to a family-related issue, like a confrontation or conflict between your family and another family, or maybe even internally within the same family, or having to do with like a land conflict, could those kinds of things constitute a changed circumstance for purposes of an exception to the 1 year filing deadline if they just recently started happening, if the problems or like the threats just recently happened? Well, you'd have to show that the changed circumstance is in fact something that relates to one of the 5 protected grounds. In other words, it's not just enough to show, oh, now I'm in danger. You also have to show that I'm in danger in a way, or the persecution would be on account of the fact that I possess one of the 5 protected characteristics under U.S. asylum law: race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. Now, in this case of sort of family conflict or land conflict, it's tricky. I would need to know a lot about the details to tell you whether I think there's a chance of connecting the persecution to one of those protected grounds. You should definitely talk with an asylum lawyer, okay? We want to talk, we want to connect with you, all right? Olajide, this is something we should talk about. Go to winasylum.com. WINASYLUM.com, WINASYLUM.com. All right. All right. Nice. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you. All right. After 180 days of applying for your work permit and you don't receive it, what should you do next? Couldn't see who said that. Abdullah, I think. All right. The question is this: what should you do if you apply for your EAD, your work permit, and you still haven't received it 180 days after you've applied for asylum? So after applying for asylum, at day 150, you're eligible to apply for the work permit, right? It's only at day 180, though, that USCIS can actually approve it and send it to you. And usually that takes a few more weeks for that to happen. So really, after you apply, you're looking at a month or 2 to actually get it in the mail. So if you've reached day 180 and you haven't gotten it, that's normal. It's going to take at least another week or 2 or 3. I would say if you go to 220 days and you haven't gotten it, then you should do an inquiry with USCIS. But the point is, it's perfectly normal for it to take a few weeks beyond that 180-day mark, okay, for them to process it, print the card, and mail it to you, okay? It's normal. So don't worry yet. Miguel says, after being for over a year, I've only recently obtained evidence of the persecution I faced in my country, as there were no reports of the situation at that time. Can I still submit my application? Interesting question. Miguel, I'm not sure if you're a Spanish speaker, but if you are, you can check out our Spanish language YouTube channel. Asilo Aprobado se llama. Asilo Aprobado. The question is, it sounds like what you're saying, Miguel, is that you just now got evidence, and you're asking whether getting evidence after 1 year can serve as an exception to the 1 year filing delay, like an excuse to file late. The question then is this: let's say that you've been here for more than a year in the United States and you haven't yet applied for asylum, but you just now recently got the evidence that you need to prove your case. Well, can the fact that you just now got this evidence serve as a changed circumstance that would excuse your late filing and help you to get around the 1 year filing deadline? And the answer, unfortunately, is no. The fact that you just got the evidence will not be a changed circumstance, all right? You need to talk with an asylum lawyer to explore other things that might serve as an exception, because people are often surprised at the different things that can, in fact, constitute an exception to the 1 year filing deadline. But the fact that you just only recently got evidence about it, what happened to you? That will not be something that constitutes a changed circumstance or an extraordinary circumstance. Okay. Hey, Unbox It. You said you're our client. Nice. Thank you for commenting here, and you're worried about an upcoming ICE check-in. Well, we'll provide specific guidance about that. Reach out to my office at the email address that we've given you to communicate with your attorney. But I'm going to address your question now about, basically, you said in this question, if someone just showed up at the home, at your door, how do you deal with that situation? Honestly, let me put it like this. I'm not going to tell you what you should do. I'm going to tell you something that you have a right to do, and you can decide whether to do it. If someone shows up at your door, you can just not answer it, Okay. If the authorities show up at your door, ICE or police, you can just not answer it. There's no obligation to open the door. There's no obligation to talk to them. You can just not go to the door, not answer it, not say anything. If they have the kind of warrant that would allow them to search your home, then they would be legally entitled to break down the door and come in, and they might do that if they have that kind of warrant. If they don't have that kind of warrant, then they're just going to knock for a while, and eventually they're going to go away. Okay. So look, I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm telling you, what your rights are, and that there's no legal obligation to go to the door. Okay. Or to answer or to talk to them at all. Okay. Mikaisha says, can an asylum seeker get married to a U.S. citizen and adjust their status? Probably. Depends on some things. You should talk with a lawyer, immigration lawyer who focuses on marriage-based immigration to get better confidence around your particular circumstances of how likely it is to be successful for you to trying to do that. Okay. Abema says, the sooner the better. Does that mean after a week of you're talking about when should you apply for asylum after entering the country? I said the sooner the better. A week is good. Look, don't rush it. Don't rush it. This is an important application. You want to do this correctly. You want to do it well. You need to lay the groundwork with this. And I think you should do it with an asylum lawyer. And if you were to come here and hire us, it usually takes us 4 to 6 weeks to put together the application because we need to do it well. Okay. So 4 to 6 weeks is soon enough. Yes, for sure. It's fine. Okay. But yeah, if you want to do it in your first week, that's fine too. Okay. Rubio Condo. I don't know the answer to that. With a freeze on asylum cases for people who entered under the humanitarian parole, like CHNV, does this stop the clock for the work permit with USCIS? I don't imagine, I'm not positive, but I don't think it will stop the clock. But if you send in the work permit application, will they adjudicate it? I'm not positive, Ruby. I'm not sure, but I'm thinking they will not. I'm thinking they will just hold it and not make a decision on it until the freeze is lifted. Okay. But I'm not sure. I'm not positive. Like, look, there's no harm, honestly, especially for a first time applicant. For an EAD, there's no harm in trying because it's free, right? The first time you apply, it's free. So when you hit 150 days, I would say go ahead and send in the work permit application. And then maybe you'll be lucky, a little bit of luck, they'll approve it. If not, I don't think there's any risk or harm in trying. Okay. Is someone released from detention under Convention Against Torture eligible for asylum? If not, what form can they file? It says Melvis. No, you're not going to be able to get asylum after getting protection under the Convention Against Torture. But look, Melvis, I'm not sure that's actually what's happened in your case. You might be actually, I could imagine that someone in your position might not be distinguishing between being released under the Convention Against Torture and getting a positive, credible fear determination that is based on protection under the Convention Against Torture. Look, actually, Melvis, I think there's a pretty decent chance that you might actually be able to apply for and get asylum. But I think you need to talk with an asylum lawyer is the bottom line to figure out what your situation is. If you were detained, you had a credible fear interview, and they said, yes, we give you a positive determination under the Convention Against Torture, and they let you go, then yes, you would be eligible to apply for and win asylum. Okay. If you actually already had immigration court proceedings and you were given protection under the Convention Against Torture, then you would not be able to get asylum after that. But I'm guessing your situation is the former, and that you are probably eligible. You need to talk with an asylum lawyer. Okay. Napoleon Dynamite. Awesome. Love that movie. He says, a buddy of mine is in the U.S. and he's overstayed his work visa. His home country has been flagged for persecution of certain groups of its citizens. Can he apply for asylum? Maybe. Yeah, we need Napoleon. I would need a ton more detail than that to tell you even like vaguely whether I think that it sounds like a decent case or not. Maybe, yeah. Even if he's been here for a long time on like a work visa, as I was explaining earlier, that can be an exception to the 1-year filing deadline called maintenance of status, but you have to apply within a reasonable time after your work visa, your work status ends. Okay. So to understand, whether generally just outside of the question of the 1-year filing deadline, whether I think the person has a decent chance of winning asylum, and also to look at this question of the 1-year filing deadline, we would definitely need to talk with them in the context of an asylum strategy session, which they can schedule here at winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. You can schedule an asylum strategy session with one of our asylum professionals. We want to talk. We want to see what's going on. We want to go deep and really get to know you and your situation, your case, and tell you whether we think we can help you. Okay. It's super quick and easy to do on your mobile or your desktop to get sorted and get scheduled with one of these consultations with us. Let's talk. All right. Let's talk. All right. Hello, sir. My biometric appointment next week. Can I go to my biometric center? Do I have to go to the location which is mentioned in my appointment letter? You should go to the, is it somewhere that's like not in your, not near you, Tassawar? Like another state. This is tricky. I can't advise you on this right now, especially since you're not my client. This is not one of those things that I don't want to tell you what to do in this situation. Yeah, sorry to pass on this. I can't advise you on this. Abdel Hakim says, I want to hire you. I have my case pending for over a year now. I have an attorney. I'm not very happy with their work. I already got my work permit. How much would it cost me? It depends, Abdel Hakim, what kind of case you have. Or it depends on whether you're with the Asylum office or an immigration court. And then it depends, I assume, since you have your work permit, I assume you've already applied for asylum. So it depends, yeah, whether we're talking about the Asylum office or immigration court. We'd have to talk in detail about your situation. Look, I mean, for an asylum case, our fees range from $10,000 to $14,000, depending on certain conditions, certain things. But for all circumstances, we have a payment plan available. You don't have to pay $14,000 at one time. Okay. But we should talk, Abdel Hakim. I hope you'll schedule a consultation, an asylum strategy session at winasylum.com so we can talk with you and see whether we think we're in a position to support you. So we'll explain how, and of course, tell you details about exactly what it would cost. All right. All right. Mikesha says, what if my family beat, threatened, and despised me because I'm a lesbian? Is that a good asylum case? Yes. Generally speaking, yes. First of all, if that's happened to you, I'm really sorry to hear about that. It sounds really tough and sad and hard, and no one should have to go through those kinds of things. So I'm sorry that you have, if that's what's happened to you. Yeah, I mean, look, being what USCIS calls a sexual minority, members of the LGBTQ plus community, if you've been harmed because of that, or you fear being harmed in the future, then I can tell you right now that yeah, there's probably a chance for winning your case. Okay, and possibly you might even have a very strong case. We would want to ask you questions about it and talk through it, which I think we should do, Mikesha. We help people in this position all the time. I hope that you'll call us about this, or better yet, schedule a consultation online, winasylum.com. Okay. Okay. Does the dependents all get the EAD, says Rose? Good question. The question is this. When you apply for asylum and then you 150 days later go on to apply for your work permit based on your pending asylum application, can your family members who are dependents in your asylum case, can they also get work permits? And if so, how does that work? Do they automatically get them when you apply for your work permit or what? Well, look, the answer is yes, they're eligible to get work permits. Family members who are physically present in the United States, included in your case as your asylum case as dependents, your spouse and children, they're eligible to get a work permit when you hit 150 days after you've applied for asylum. But everyone has to have their own application. It's in asylum. It's you can apply as a principal applicant and include them as dependents. But for the work permit, everyone, including the dependents, they have to have their own application. So all the family members who want a work permit and social security card need to submit their own application. You don't have to, it's optional. I think it's a good idea. I think that it's a good idea to have these documents to go through life in the US. So yes, they can, but they need to submit their own applications. All right. If you're in the U.S. on a student visa and pending AOS I-485 for 10 years and now apply for asylum, is this exception to the 1-year bar? Well, Bezad, the pending I-485 does not help you. It does not have anything to do with the 1-year filing deadline. The student visa, yes. I mean, the question is, when did your student status end? If it ended more than a few months ago, then it would probably be very hard to qualify for an exception, for that exception at least. There may be other things. There may be a change of circumstances in your case, but the pending I-485 does not serve as, it doesn't help you to establish that maintenance of status exception, okay? Mike Cook says, is this live recorded? Yeah, if you go back to in like an hour or so, it shows up on the YouTube channel. If you go back to my YouTube channel, which by the way, TikTok, go to YouTube. All my best stuff is on YouTube. I've got some really detailed trainings and tutorials on YouTube that you're not going to find elsewhere. Go to YouTube and search for Political Asylum Lawyers. That's the name of my law firm, and it's also the name of our YouTube channel. And so go there. The answer, yeah, is this live will be like, it'll show up under the lives tab on my channel. It takes like an hour or something for it to like process and upload, but yeah, it'll be there. Gogi, what's the difference between the United Nations Immigration Court and U.S. Immigration Court? I don't know what that is. I don't think there is a United Nations Immigration Court. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Maybe you're talking about UNHCR, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, designation. And like basically the UN has an entity that works with, that processes refugees, and then they work with other countries to try to get those refugees sent to other countries, to have other countries accept them and bring them in. And that process is for people that are outside, mostly, well, some people that are in their own country, but mostly for people that are outside their own country in a third country. That's a complicated process that doesn't have anything to do with what we do. That's for people that are, I don't think you can do that from inside the United States, as far as I know. So you don't need to worry about the UN stuff, but there's no United Nations Immigration Court. That's for sure. All right. Are my chances higher if I come from a low immigration risk country? That's an interesting question. I don't think I've ever seen that question asked before. The question is this: do you have a better chance for winning asylum if you're from a country that is considered to be a low immigration risk? What do I mean by that? Well, that term, as most people use it, refers to a country from which few people come to the United States and then end up overstaying their visa. So like when someone goes to a visa interview at certain countries, there's very high denial rates in certain countries for like tourist visas, because the officers think that people from that country are likely to come to the United States and abuse their visa and overstay and stay longer than they're supposed to. And it's true that some countries have higher overstay rates than others. Okay, I mean, that's a fact. So the question here is, will the fact that you're from one of these low-risk countries help you to win asylum? Like, does it look good? Is it a positive sort of factor in your case? And the answer is no. It has absolutely nothing to do with your asylum eligibility. It will not make any difference at all one way or another. Okay. What if, nice. Google Deer, that's a fun name. It says, is late asylum based on religious persecution under changed country conditions a viable option? I mean, yeah, if something has changed, either about you and your religion or lack thereof, or something in the country about how they're now persecuting more religious minorities, for example. Either of those would be changed circumstances that could excuse a late filing for asylum. So, yeah, the answer is yes. Alex Petros says, can you apply for asylum after 10 years staying in the U.S. under the changed circumstances exception? Yes, it could be 10 years. You could be here 30 years. And then if something changes, either in your life, your person, or back in your country, that makes it such that now you need asylum, and now there's the chance of like you meeting all the requirements for asylum except for, but for the 1 year filing deadline, then yeah, you might be able to qualify for this exception. The changed circumstances exception, okay? But look, here's an important point to point out. We've talked about this changed circumstances exception a lot, and we've talked about the extraordinary circumstance exception of maintenance of status. You have to apply within a reasonable time after the changed circumstance occurs or after the extraordinary circumstance ends. So if you come to the United States and you're here for a few years and you're from a very religious, devout, strict country that's very like strict, religiously conservative, and they persecute people who are religious minorities or who change religions, and you change religions in the United States after you've been here for like 4 years, that would be a changed circumstance. But you need to apply for asylum within a, quote, reasonable time after that change of circumstance, after you change religions. And so the officer is going to try to figure out, well, what is sort of the date that we should use for your change of religion? It might be, when you get baptized in this new church, or when you join the new church, or they're going to have to point to some sort of time, or at least time frame, and say, okay, from that time until the time you filed the asylum application, how much time went by? Is that reasonable? What's reasonable? 2 months for sure is reasonable. 3 months, probably. Beyond 3 months, it starts to get a little bit dicey. Okay, it's kind of a case-by-case thing, but the more time that goes by, the harder it is to convince the officer that it's reasonable. Okay. Abdel Hakim says, I'll definitely schedule a consultation. Why wait? Thank you. Do it now. You guys, you don't have to wait till after the show's over. Go right now to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com, and you can schedule an asylum strategy session right now. Just open up a new tab and go. winasylum.com. We want to talk. We want to see what's going on and tell you whether we think we can help you. And if so, explain exactly how we would do that. We're going to tell you what our plan is. We have something called an asylum action plan. It's a 3-step process. It's a framework for winning asylum that I've developed after working for 11 years for the government's 2 main agencies for asylum and refugee matters. And then also based on my experience now, having my asylum law firm for 5 years. So that's informing our approach, and we think it's working well. We've helped a lot of people to secure their future in America through asylum. We have a much, much higher approval rate for our clients than like what the national average approval rate is. So we want to see what's going on and tell you whether we think we can put this to work for you. Okay. Does MPP remain in Mexico apply to people from Asia, or is it just for South Americans? Says Soren. It's for anyone. It's not just Central or South Americans. It's for anyone. When it is in effect and being actually implemented, yeah, it's not just for Central or South Americans. It's for everyone. Luckveer Seringun says, does financial retribution by the current government, can that count as persecution? They got me and my wife work contract terminated within 6 because I was a political campaign for the opposition party. Interesting question. Good question. The question is this: can economic harm inflicted by the government in your country against you count as persecution? Maybe. Look, it's tricky. It's hard to win this case. The law calls economic deprivation can rise to the level of persecution. It can count as harm sufficiently severe to rise to the level of persecution, but it's got to be severe. Just like getting you fired from one job or fining you some money would not be severe enough to count as persecution. However, if the government blackballed you such that you couldn't get a job like pretty much anywhere in the country, and they took away your assets and they seized your home, and if they inflicted severe economic harm on you, then it could be considered persecution. But by itself, just something like, oh, they got me fired from my job, or they canceled a contract, or they took my car away from me without paying me for it, would not be harm sufficiently severe to count as persecution. Okay. But look, there may be more to your story that, once we hear it, we can sort of tell you that we might believe that, okay, that in combination with other things is enough to count as persecution, or there is a strong enough case to be made that they're going to do worse things to you in the future, including possibly physical harm that could rise to the level of persecution. Okay. All right. What is your phone number? Because I want to speak with you. Well, Katya, привет. Go to the best way to contact us to get scheduled for a consultation is winasylum.com. Go to winasylum.com. Winasylum.com. But look, if you don't want to mess with online and you really just want to call, you can do that. Our phone number is 713-909-0401. I'm going to put in the chat winasylum.com, winasylum.com, and I'm also going to put our phone number 713-909-0401. Okay, you can use one of those to contact us and get set up with your consultation. All right. How much is your consultation? It's $97 at present. $97. We used to charge $197. For a while, it was free, but now it's $97. $97 for a consultation. Up to 50 minutes, 50. This is not like a 10-minute, 15-minute cursory thing where we ask you 2 questions and then we say, yeah, hire us. No, we want to go deeper than that. We need to really get to know you, your goals, your aspirations for your immigration case and your situation, and then get to know your case, your underlying actual case really well as well. And then we want to explain to you in detail what our plan would be, because we're going to come up with an actual plan. Look, most lawyers that you talk to don't have any kind of strategy, any kind of plan for approaching a case. They just say, oh, don't worry about it. Yeah, we'll take care of it. We'll help you win. We'll come up with some stuff. Yeah. And they can't tell you concretely in detail what they would actually do to help you to increase your chances for success, because they don't have a plan. They don't have anything concrete. But we don't operate that way. I want a plan. I need a plan. And we have what's called an asylum action plan, which is a 3-step framework for showing the asylum officer everything they need to see to know that you qualify for asylum, and for preparing you extremely well for your interview, and then representing you during it to give you the best possible chance of winning your case. All right. Nice. Question about the Mandamus lawsuit. Is it going to hurt my asylum chance? Good question, but the answer, here it is. The question is this: will filing a Mandamus lawsuit to force the government to finally give you your asylum interview after a long delay, will doing this hurt your chances of winning your actual asylum case, the underlying asylum claim? Look, short answer, no. Let me back up and say that I understand this concern completely. I get it. It makes sense to be concerned. Like, look, if I am so bold as to sue the U.S. government, are they going to hold it against me? Are they going to look at it in a negative light, and could that negatively affect my asylum case? But no, the answer is no. Look, we filed over 100 of these in the last maybe year and a half with a lot of success, both in the Mandamus lawsuit and also in the underlying asylum cases. And I can tell you, I am supremely confident that it is not hurting our clients' chances for winning their underlying asylum case. Okay. There's multiple reasons for why I believe that is the case. But I certainly do believe that's the case. I am very confident that suing the government in an asylum delay lawsuit will not hurt your chance of winning your underlying asylum case. Okay. And the sooner you get your interview and your decision, the better, in my professional opinion. All right. In my experience, in my opinion. Okay. All right. Ahab, thanks for playing Monitor. I actually don't even remember don't remember seeing Nicole's question. Okay, I'm going back to Nicole's question. Can I travel using my refugee travel document after getting approved for asylum? Is it safe? I think it's pretty safe. There's always a little risk when you leave the country. If you don't have U.S. citizenship, there's always a little risk of not being let back in. But I think it's pretty safe. As long as you haven't committed some kind of crime, then I think it's pretty safe to travel with a refugee travel document. Okay, pretty safe. If you can accept a little bit of risk, then I think it's okay. Then I would travel with it. Yeah. Okay, that is what I think. Nice. Oh, thank you, Sonia Martinez. Appreciate that. All right. Okay, cool. How long does Asylum take with backlog? Says Bidiagaj on TikTok. Good question. The question is this. So, in light of the massive Asylum backlog, how long is it going to take you to get your interview with USCIS if you apply now? I've got a surprising answer for you. Not long at all, probably. Look, everyone knows of people that have been waiting for their asylum interview with USCIS for multiple years, for 3 years, 7 years, 12 years, right? So it's surprising for people when I say, actually, if you apply now, there's a really good chance you're going to get your interview pretty much right away, within like 1 to 3 months of applying, probably. No guarantees, and not everyone will. But what I can tell you is that most people who have applied recently in the last several months have gotten their interview right away, within a few weeks, within like 1 to 3 months usually. Long story for why that's the case. It has to do with the processing priorities of USCIS and the fact that fewer people have been coming to the southern border to seek asylum. And that frees up asylum officers. They don't have to do as many credible fear interviews, so it frees them up to do asylum interviews. And they're able to interview people as they come in. So if you apply now, you got to be ready to go. I hope you have a lawyer helping you, because there's a good chance it's going to go fast, and you got to be ready. Okay. Nice. What if my home government has held my travel documents like my passport for years, and manipulation, does it count towards protective ground for asylum? Reason was ideology and sovereignty for different state. Well, look, ideology and someone advocating for the sovereignty of part of a part of their country to be like its own sovereign country, that sounds like it's probably a political opinion case. Like, there's probably a good argument to be made that any harm is motivated by your political opinion. But the question of whether the harm in the past was sufficiently severe to count as persecution is going to be something we really need to explore much more deeply. And what is there to point to that tells us that, yeah, look, they're probably going to harm you severely, very severely in the future? Those are questions that we would really need to explore in detail in the context of an asylum strategy session with one of our asylum professionals, okay? AJ says, I'm from Syria and I have a pending asylum application since 2022. I came on a tourist visa. The conditions are changed in my country. So what thoughts do you have for providing evidence? Yeah, Syria is a very different situation now, right? Look, you definitely need to, almost certainly you have a very sort of a different case now than you originally had, right? Because of the change in power in Syria. So you do need to provide country conditions information and be ready to explain your case in light of the current context. So how to do those things, I mean, that's a very involved process that, we would be happy to talk through with you, right? Like, there's a process that we do with people to submit what's called an asylum roadmap. This is a process, a packet that we're going to submit where we're telling your story in writing. We're fighting your case on paper. And with this filing, this asylum roadmap, we want to show the judge how to get to the answer yes in your case in the easiest way possible. And the goal is that on the day of your interview, when you walk into that office, we want that asylum officer to already be thinking, okay, based on the documents in this case, I already understand the case. I already see how the person meets all the asylum eligibility requirements. That's what we want to establish ahead of time in the officer's mind with this asylum roadmap filing, okay? FBA Warehouse says, USCIS referred to court. Years waiting. Judge dismissed on it on December 23rd due to gaining TPS. Venezuelan TPS potentially expiring September 2025. Does the 1-year rule affect me from requesting asylum again? No. Well, no, it doesn't affect you from requesting asylum again. But look, because you already had the interview with USCIS, you're going to be almost certainly, if you apply again with USCIS, you're going to be sent straight back to immigration court. Not necessarily a bad thing. It depends on how strong your case is and whether you're comfortable taking on a little bit of risk. it may be worth considering applying. But to answer your actual question, you should be fine with regard to the 1 year filing deadline. I'm pretty confident that the judge who ends up with your case is going to use that original filing deadline of when you originally filed with USCIS a long time ago. Okay. Look, FBA warehouse, about half our clients are Venezuelans. We know these cases extremely well, and we've had a lot of success with Venezuela cases. No tiene que explicarnos que son Escuadrero Sebim. Conocemos muy bien todo eso, okay? And we have a channel in Espanol, in Spanish. Asilo Aprobado is the name of our Spanish language YouTube channel. If you want to check that out, Asilo Aprobado, okay? We should talk. We've helped a lot of Venezuelans, including in this position. We should talk through whether it makes sense to apply again. You'd be applying with USCIS, but with the expectation that it will almost certainly get sent back to immigration court. But there's a lot of Venezuelans for whom that's a good idea, for whom I think it's a good idea, because they have a real chance to win their case. And knowingly putting yourself back in deportation proceedings can be a good idea. Okay. If you're willing to take on a little bit of risk. Okay. Yeah. That's what I think. All right. Can you, here's a question that I want to address because we get this one a lot. Can you file for your EAD even if you haven't received your biometrics appointment notice yet? Good question. The question is this: can you apply for your work permit based on your pending asylum case, even though you have not done your biometrics appointment yet as part of your asylum case? So look, if you get to 150 days after having applied for asylum, but you've not received the biometrics appointment notice, you haven't done the biometrics appointment, you may be wondering, okay, well, do I need to get that first and do that appointment first before I'm eligible to apply for my work permit? The answer is no, you don't have to wait. You can apply for your work permit as soon as you reach 150 days, whether or not you've done biometrics, whether or not you've received the biometrics notice yet or not. If you've not done biometrics and you apply at 150 days for your work permit, that almost certainly will trigger a biometrics scheduling. Like after you apply for your work permit, that will cause USCIS to issue to now issue the biometrics appointment. So good news. Yeah, the point of the good news is you don't have to wait. You can go ahead and apply for that EAD as soon as you reach 150 days. Okay. So that's good, right? Very good. Okay. What happens if my court date changes to an earlier date? I think that's good. I think the sooner you get your chance to explain your case and you get a decision, the better your chances for success. Billy, we talked about this yesterday. Oh wait, is there a difference between CFI and RFI? Yeah, the RFI interviews are usually a little more detailed, a little bit more intense, a little bit longer, but substantively, it's overall, it's basically the same thing, which is pretty much the same thing as an asylum interview, which is, what reason is there to believe that you're going to be persecuted in your country? So yeah, that's kind of, it's largely the same. All right. Okay. Debrat says, if my mother's asylum is pending and my dad is being detained by ICE immigration, is there any way my mom could help my dad? I'm sorry to hear that. Kate Debrat, that's tough. That's really tough. No, I mean, I don't think the fact that your mom has a pending asylum case, that fact will not, make it, easier to get your dad out of detention. No. Yeah. Unfortunately, no, I don't have a good answer for you. I don't have good news for you on that. Unfortunately, I'm sorry you're in this difficult position. Okay. Gaj's pain exercises. Interesting. If I send my documents by mail, would it take longer? Yes. If you're talking about applying for asylum, yeah, it takes longer if you apply by mail. Don't apply by mail. I strongly encourage anyone considering applying for asylum with USCIS to do that electronically through a My USCIS account online instead of by mail. Okay. Anything, the last affair, that's a fun name, says, anything I should be aware of before going into an interview under the new Trump administration? I mean, look, I think approval rates are going to be going down. I think with every month that the Trump administration is back in power, it's going to be harder and harder to win asylum. You got to do better and better. You got to present a stronger case. You got to be better prepared and ready to put on a great case. If you have an asylum lawyer, I hope you do. That's great. The best thing you can do to prepare the last affair is a full-scale practice interview, a mock interview from beginning to end of everything that you're going to experience on the day of your real interview. We do that with our clients. And they tell us that it's the key to their success, that it's like they think it's the most important thing for winning asylum is the practiced interview that we do with them. It makes, I think, a huge difference. Okay. You can schedule that with us at winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. Also, who was that? Who did we say? The Last Affair? Yeah, The Last Affair. On my YouTube channel, go to the playlists and look at the playlist. There's two of them you should look at. One says Asylum Interview, so look at that playlist. And then also look at the one that says full-length asylum trainings. I've got some really detailed videos that will help you prepare for the interview, okay? That's it for today. I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer. I used to be an asylum officer, but now as a lawyer, my law firm, we help immigrants all over the country. It doesn't matter where you live. We help immigrants all over the country, all over the United States, secure their future in America through asylum. And as always, it's really a pleasure and an honor to support all of you in your asylum journey. And I'll